few weeks ago, I was graciously gifted a game by my dear friend Indy, Stardew Valley. As a fan of life sims like Animal Crossing and Harvest Moon, it was a game that I was interested in trying since it came out, but I just never got around to trying it out until recently. And I have to say that I am in love with this game. Probably a bit too much. Like, so much that it's intervening with day-to-day life. Don't believe me? Here's some testimonies.
He hasn't showered in 3 weeks.
He is the most unemployed man I've ever met.
He's a bum!
But it's kind of got me thinking about Harvest Moon. It was a series that I played a good bit of when I was younger, but it kind of slipped out of consciousness in the past couple of years through no fault of the game. Well, I'll get back to that. Stardew definitely takes a lot from Harvest Moon, but it also adds a lot on top of all that. So I thought it'd be fun to go through both Stardew and Harvest Moon and contrast and compare to see which is each series' strong points. Obviously, Harvest Moon is a whole series, while Stardew is just one game. So when I'm looking at Harvest Moon, I'll look at both the worst it has to offer and the best it has to offer. And finally, if you're looking for a one-word answer on which is going to be better, you're not going to find it here. I will be giving answers to which is better for certain aspects, and also my own personal opinions on which are better, but I cannot put the total worth of a whole series against one game. I'm going to start with the art style and identity of each series. This is going to be a tricky one on both ends, so I'm just going to start with Stardew's art style and its identity. I'm not mad on it. Okay, the pixel art within the game works, and a lot of it does look really nice, but it's kind of got a bit of that so retro effect going on. If you don't know what I mean by that, it's when something uses pixel art graphics, but it doesn't actually conform to a pixel grid. So you can have animations that are way too smooth for what is supposed to be pixel art. During breathing animations, the individual pixels on the characters actually bend, which, now that you notice it, you will never unsee. When the game tries to do more detailed stills, which to be fair is very rare, but still, they look awkward and I don't know, they just don't mesh with the rest of the game. I know to most other people that they probably wouldn't even notice a lot of this stuff, but it's just the kind of thing that bugs me. It also doesn't help that the faux pixel art style was very oversaturated in the late 2010s, and even now to some extent. Now, Harvest Moon is tricky for different reasons. If we go back to the beginning of the series, the art style of Harvest Moon, both in-game and promo art, was quite consistent, and it was also really nice looking. You could easily point out a piece of artwork and say, yeah, that's from Harvest Moon. But as the series progressed, and especially in the 2000s, the series began to lose a lot of its visual identity. This mostly happens in the 3D games. In each 3D game, they would try different art styles, most of which range from bland to just fucking terrible. Loads of these art styles made the games look like, hello, welcome back to Nintendo Direct, here's a farming game 176. It definitely didn't help that the entire genre of farming sims was really oversaturated in the late 2010s. And, you know, if you think all of that was bad for the game's identity, well, fuck you. I know, I heard just clattering away from the moment I started this video, but I said I'd get to it. In 2012, Harvest Moon changed its title to Story of Seasons. Why? Well, there's two companies, Marvelous Entertainment and Natsume. Marvelous makes the games in Japan and Natsume localizes it for the West under the name Harvest Moon. But for whatever reason, Marvelous Entertainment says, right, we don't want you to localize the games anymore. I wonder why. And Natsume goes, yeah, grand, that's fine. Oh, but by the way, we own the title to Harvest Moon, so you're not allowed to use that anymore. So a new title had to be chosen. And I mean, I think they did an alright job for picking a name similar to Harvest Moon. Actually, it was so similar that when I first saw the trailer for Story of Seasons, I said, what the fuck? This is just some shitty Harvest Moon copy. But you can't blame me for thinking that. Harvest Moon isn't a massive series to begin with, so the name change fell under the radar for a lot of people. And it doesn't help that Natsume decided, fuck it, we'll keep using the name. So while the main series was going on, Natsume decides, to fucking confuse every single person ever by making their own game series and putting it out as Harvest Moon. So there's basically a fucking timeline split with the series, with every game after 2012 being called Story of Seasons, and any game that still has the Harvest Moon title is technically not even part of the original Harvest Moon series. I think it's obvious. Harvest Moon's visual identity is dead. I mean, it's possible to get it back, but they're basically going to have to rebuild the brand from the ground up after the name change. And they still haven't found a solid art style. A lot of them are just bland to the point you'd think it's just some small farming game on the eShop. And it pains me to say that, because if Harvest Moon had stayed with the style it established early on, it definitely would have been the better of the two. Now onto the gameplay. There's a lot of things to consider when we are talking about the gameplay of the two games, but one of the biggest draws to the series is the characters and the relationships you can have with them. Harvest Moon: A Wonderful Life is the game that comes to mind when talking about this. Although the game is, still a farming simulator, there is a major emphasis on family life, finding a wife, having a child, and watching them grow up. It's super interesting. There's no real game that I can think of that puts this much emphasis on your family interaction, except maybe like The Sims. Stardew falls short in this category for me. Yes, you can romance characters, and it actually has same-sex marriage, woke, which only like 3 Harvest Moon games have. But once you actually get your wife or your husband or whatever, there's like very little more to it. Like, you can have children, but you basically get no interaction with them. The main thing you can do with them is put hats on them or punt them out of existence. They quite literally have the same function as your dog, which is as bad as that may sound. Now, although the relationships may be less interesting in Stardew, what is better is the actual characters themselves. All the townsfolk still kind of fit into a stereotype like Harvest Moon, goth, nerd, homeless. But their special events add so much to their character, way more than Harvest Moon's. I think it also benefits Stardew that the game actually has a slightly higher age rating. That lets it get away with more adult topics. Nothing majorly serious. This isn't EastEnders or anything.
What are you doing here, you stupid fat car? Phil!
But there's secret affairs, there's war backstories, and not 1, but 2 alcoholics. Yippee! As I said, it's nothing super in-depth, but it helps to make the characters feel a little more interesting with realistic flaws. Cause if we're talking about the Harvest Moon characters, the characters themselves are fine at best, and possibly illegal at worst. Most of the characters can be extremely surface level, and any flaws of theirs is kind of just like oh, I'm shy, or wow, what a tsundere. And then there's the characters who are just creepy or downright offensive. In Harvest Moon 64, there is a character called Kai, a black man who works at a vineyard. And for whatever reason, the translators decided, let's have him call his boss Master. No wonder you got fucking dropped. Then there's the character of Luna. Now, there is no official age from what I can find, but in the game Tree of Tranquility, she looks about fucking 10 years old. Not to mention that she acts it as well. She's like 5 feet tall, she's pink girly hair, her room is decorated like a child. If you come up to me and you tell me that you married Luna in Tree of Tranquility, I'm calling the guards. All of that aside, what about the stuff that actually matters? The gameplay, the farming, I want to harvest some moons. Well, both games' intention is for you to get as much money as you can by farming. But what kind of farming? Dairy farming, tropical fruit, organ farming, that's all up to you. The progression of money making in this game is what's going to divide people's attention. Making money in both series kind of works like this. You start down here at the bottom, and then your daily income starts to exponentially grow as you get more crops, better fertilizers, more animals, etc. And then, near the end of the game, the money you make each day begins to plateau out as you basically push your farm to its limit, to the point where it's basically making the max amount of money it can in one day. Both Harvest Moon and Stardew's progression are gonna have the same basic shape, but the ceiling to Stardew's progression is a lot higher. This is because Stardew just has so many ways to make money. Yeah, you can do like, the simple planting more crops, but then you get sprinklers to water all your crops every day, so then you can focus on animals, and then you expand their barn and make their products into cheese, age that cheese to make it more valuable, and so on and so on. Even in the quote-unquote late game of Stardew, you keep getting new ways to make money. This might seem like it's a point to Stardew, but it's really a kind of each their own kind of thing. Personally, I love having loads of tasks to do, but even I have to admit that there can kind of be a sense of uncertainty or overchoice when it comes to what to do in the game. I don't know how many times I've had a shite load of tasks to do on one day, and I either can't get them all done in one day, or completely forget half of the tasks while focusing on another. While in Harvest Moon, although, yeah, the options change from game to game, you normally just have your plot of land, your animals, and a few miscellaneous ways to make money on the side. Harvest Moon has a way more laid-back approach to farming, and although I personally prefer Stardew's amount of options, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't overwhelmed a lot in Stardew. Harvest Moon kind of gives you that time to go around and explore and kind of just relax. The last comparison I am going to make is a smaller one, but it is still significant. Content updates. Although Harvest Moon may add new gameplay additions and fixes in each new installment, that's the downside. It's always a new installment. Whilst with Stardew, you buy the game once, and then you get all the updates for free as they release. And yes, the game is still actively being updated. That's how I rationalise being able to pit a whole series against one game. Although Harvest Moon has 20 odd games under its belt, Stardew has the ability to fix issues already in it, as well as add to the game on top of that. I think Stardew definitely has the upper hand in this one. I don't think anybody wants to pay more to improve your game when you can just get the updates for free nowadays. So, finally, what series should you pick? For me personally, Stardew has everything that I want. Hours upon hours of content, loads of hidden secrets, a sense of exploration, basically variety. And it might seem like I was giving Harvest Moon a bit of a hard time, but I want to make it very clear that I love Harvest Moon, and Stardew wouldn't exist without it. Many of the Harvest Moon games may be more simplistic than Stardew, but simplicity can just sometimes be better. I mean, look at the Animal Crossing series. One of my favourite games is the GameCube game, and that's literally the first game in the series. Harvest Moon is a relaxing series, much more than Stardew. Each game knows exactly what it wants to be. If you want to run a family simulator, play A Wonderful Life. It does family better than Stardew and actually any other game in the franchise. If you want exploration, play the newer Story of Seasons games. If you want a well-rounded experience, 64 or Friends of Mineral Town. And I know it might be an unpopular opinion, but I personally love DS, but that's mainly because I'm nostalgic for it. And at the end of the day, both games have their own niches that they fill, and acting like one trumps the other doesn't really achieve anything. Although, I do hope this video helped you pick what series suits you better. But there is one way to decide a definitive, factual winner.
Epic rap battles of history! Stardew versus Harvest Moon! Begin!